The Prime Minister's pushing for tougher alcohol restrictions. That was clear last week when he flew straight to Alice Springs, when the story, albeit belatedly, it was elevated to sort of national attention. Do you welcome his push for tougher alcohol restrictions? Will that work?
Well, they should never have been let go. I mean, they were warned on the 9th of June by community groups in Alice Springs to the minister saying, do not remove them, the community's not ready. The cashless debit card is the other policy failure of this government in saying that they want to respect people. They want to respect the dignity of Australians to be able to give them the freedom to have alcohol, to be able to use their social security payments to be able to buy that alcohol. Well, where's the dignity of the women and children who are the victims of this? Where is the dignity of those business owners who get up in the morning, the courage and conviction of their own wallet to have a go and then be robbed? Where is their dignity? At some stage, a government's responsibility always falls back to one simple principle: to keep its people safe. And that means you have to govern for the greater good rather than an individual. And when the individual can't control themselves, then you have to implement policy that protects the greater good. And that's where this government's failed, whether it be with the grog bans or whether it be with the cashless debit cards. This was foreseen, this was told, not just by politicians, but by the community. And so Anthony Albanese now wants a voice. Well, he didn't listen before. It took him for a crisis to get on a plane to get out there. But if that's exactly the point the Nationals are saying, is get on a plane, get out there and sit in these communities. You don't need a voice. You actually need politicians that do their job and get the bureaucracy to do what you tell them to do. This is the failure. Even those that actually are purporting to support the voice, their frustration is around the bureaucracy and their failure to deliver. And I agree with them. But putting another layer isn't going to work. It's about a minister having the courage to grab the bureaucracy and say, you're not leaving those communities. You're not leaving Wadair, you're not leaving Alice Springs, you're not leaving Carnarvon, you're not leaving Wilcannia until you've got that solution, it's implemented, and you will not be coming back to Canberra until you've achieved that. That's how you close the gap. Practical, not ideological ways is the only way in which you'll close the gap for Indigenous Australians.
The Prime Minister's looking at, well, not just him, but this process that he's put in place as an opt-out option as opposed to an opt-in for an alcohol ban. Is that sufficient?
Well, look, I think this takes courage and conviction to say it hasn't worked. You were told just re-implement what was in there. It was working to an extent, and reinstate the cashless debit card. There is no one single measure that'll solve this, Kieran. It actually is a suite of measures, and that's why it's important that this government understands that and understands they got it wrong, not just on the grog bans, they got it wrong on the cashless debit card. To protect these communities, protect the individuals, whether they be Indigenous or white. You have a right to live safely in any part of Australia, and when it doesn't happen, then you've got to govern for the greater good, and that's where ideology has got in the road of practical reality.
The government maintains that income management will remain in place despite the removal of the cashless debit card that you referred to. Is there evidence to suggest that it's already having an adverse impact?
The cashless debit card, sorry, you dropped out, sorry, mate.
Yeah, the removal, is there evidence to suggest the removal of the cashless debit card is having an impact? We know the removal of the alcohol ban has clearly had a devastating impact.
Yep.
Is the National Party aware of already a flow-on effect from the removal of that card? Because the government is arguing that income management will remain in place, albeit through a different mechanism.
Well, I'm sure there'll be reviews and investigations into this, because it's only just happened. But Kieran, when you start taking thousands of dollars out of people's pockets in terms of putting just food and paying the essentials and putting into alcohol and other substances that have negative social impacts, then I think the reality is pretty clear. That's how human nature works. If people have money in their pocket, disposable income for things that they desire that may not necessarily give a good social outcome, then they will. And that's, when you provide that opportunity. And as the Nationals have always said, it is not a right to get Australian taxpayers' money. It is a privilege. And with that privilege comes mutual responsibility. mutual responsibility to make sure you live up to your responsibility as a good Australian citizen, to make sure your kids are at school, to make sure that they have bread and butter on the table, they have 3 square feeds a day. That's the responsibility, the mutual responsibility. Now, if you start saying that we open up that, and we've had experience where this and much of the social discord that is happening is from alcohol and substance abuse, and you put thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars back into that side of the economy, then there's going to be poor social outcomes. So I'll let the demographers go and work their magic now, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find the facts that it's just human nature.